Um,
Would you discourage buying a secondhand one or no?
no, I think it's okay. I mean,
Or it's okay to get it?
I think it's generally okay. It's like a lot of other things from places like that. If people have a way of, if you have recourse, if it's if there's problems with it, that you can either get a refund or something. I don't. I think it
Hmm.
depends on the marketplace. Um,
Exactly.
then maybe that's a little better. Yeah.
I'll do some research. I'm pretty new to shopping in Bulgaria, so I'll have to figure out how that works, especially from like websites like this, the Bulgarian version of Craigslist and stuff. But yeah, but
Yeah.
thank you for taking a look.
Yeah, no problem. And it's fun that you keep moving around. I see you in different places. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's my life.
So how many days are you on the road, like in a given year? Is it something that you're used to?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes more or less. Um, yeah, I'll be back in the States in September, October. I'll be on the road in mid most of June. So I think for the next month and a half, I'll be home. So that's good.
Wow.
I work in
Okay.
travel, so I travel for with groups. And also since I used to live in the US, I'm gonna combine a work trip with some personal travels.
Nice.
So,
Sounds very cool. Okay, so no piano today for you.
mm-mm.
So okay, you'll have to imagine it.
No, but I get
We're
to
going.
learn. Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna go. Welcome to live session 7. We're gonna get into harmony, and we're gonna get into harmony through gospel. And the way that we'll do that is basically I'll take you through just the basics on the keyboard, which is all stuff that we've done. We'll be in C major today, and kind of through gospel melody and rhythm and the momentum of doing it, of hearing the music and playing it ourselves, then we'll have an in. The whole class, the focus is really on learning by doing, and it's especially true for this session. So I welcome you to try with me whenever you're able. So let's go to church, but first we gotta get dressed for church. So we actually start at home base, which is C major. We're gonna spend time in all the modes of C major. Um, so basically, we can think of C major with C on the bottom as the home, and that's the one chord. We'll keep returning to the one chord. Even most songs outside of church music end up back at the one chord. But a quick review or a quick journey trip um, through chords and kind of um, trying different voicings. I'll show you what I mean. So the starting chord for any mode is 1 3 5. This is kind of like the basic, also called a triad, and I'll show you. And we've seen this before in other variations. So 1 3 5 in C is 1 3 5. The C is the 1, and we've seen these intervals before, 3 5, and this is 1 again up here. And so if we put these three notes in different orders, they still create C major, but are the chord C major is the same, but the physical chord that we play is different. So these are another way to say it instead of using the word chord, which can be ambiguous, is we can say the word voicing. The word voicing includes the idea of different ways to spell the chord or different ways to lay out the chord physically. And why are they called this? It's because the original source of a tone is the human voice, and the voice can sing one note at a time. So in order to hear a chord, you need multiple voices at the same time. And so when we play a chord, we're summoning multiple voices through a different instrument, but it's the same idea. So these notes or voices, each note is actually a voice, can be arranged in different orders, resulting in different sounds. So, for example, if I bring this C voice down, that's a different sound. And if I bring this G up another register, that's a very different sound too. So this is like a choir with where all the voices have all the humans in this choir have extraordinary vocal capabilities of being wherever, for example. So these are different voicings of C major, just voiced differently, and we're going to play around a lot with that idea today. But they're all still called C major. And so today you'll see how to find your own voicings and also recognize when different voicings are the same chord. So we're going to start with a particular new voicing in C major. This is C, G, E, C, and I'll put up the slide real quick and then show it on the piano. So this is the one. Oh, this is the one. So we'll play this with two hands. It actually spans 2 octaves. And notice the E and the G in the middle. That's what we're going to kind of have as the active part. So this is what it looks like here. So we're actually doubling the C on the top as well. Gives it kind of a complete, wholesome sound. And we're going to start moving this, and the C on the top and the C on the bottom actually stay still, while this G and E will move. And this forms an interval. Does anyone know what this interval is? No one's gonna guess. Okay, it's a sixth. So we have, so if we're just talking about these two notes, you have G with itself is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have an inner sixth in this chord, and what'll happen is we will move the sixth up and down. So we can actually try to move it within the range of what's possible. Like if you imagine that you had 4 hands and 2 were always playing these notes, then you can even go above the top, over higher than the top and lower than the bottom. So it goes like, and even like this. don't have to do that. It's just to conceptualize what we're doing. So we'll try doing the same thing, but going below the low C. Oops, I messed that up. So, what we're doing is mainly visualizing how this inner sixth can move. And also there's something more subconscious going on because as we do this, we're also familiarizing our ear with the different modes. And this is kind of a, this new voicing is actually kind of a warm up to the next one we'll do, which is is easier to visualize, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So this is what it looks like. It's now 3 moving notes and will span 3 octaves, and the bottom is an octave. It's just the C octave, 2 C's, and the top is actually the same. So this is what that looks like. And we'll do the same kind of moving around. So it's the whole octave that will move with this note. And now we have, instead of an inner sixth, we have a tenth that will move. So a tenth is the same as a third, except it adds an octave to the third. So we go all the way to the next C and then the third. So this is what will move. And just like before, we can go beyond the high C. And down. And you can go as far as you're able to. This is kind of stretching it. This is the absolute limit for me. It's coming down to the F. So a lot of this is really about learning the, not learning as much as like internalizing the sound of the different modes. Um, it really, I've spoken before, like just a little bit on like we want to see each note as a character in a play. Um, Here I've color coded the modes. I don't know if that makes it clear that they're characters, but it's kind of the idea. Each personality, you know, the one, the two, the three, gets revealed a bit deeper when we explore them as modes of C. And more than that, they kind of each one has a role to play. So there's actually only 7 different roles in these major modes. So if we play these 7 in B major, um, the roles are still the same. So here they are in B major. So you can think of like the 4 chord, for example. It has one personality. Its name is the 4 chord. And On one day it's the four chord of B major, and on another day it's the four chord of D or G flat or C. And that's the same character, even if it's wearing a different costume. So if we go back to C major, this is the C1 chord. This is the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5, the 6 chord, and the 7th chord. And so normally we'll say you say the number, but then if we ever see it written, then it's written as these Roman numerals, and we'll explore how come some of the Roman numerals are lowercase and uppercase, and kind of the special roles that some of these have to play because they start to interact with each other in interesting ways. So what we'll do now is instead of moving them sequentially, we'll try out of order. So, for example, in thirds, we could do starting with A on the bottom, even though we're in C major, we can start here. We can move in thirds like this. And then I could come back down. And F if you can. We could start in B in thirds and go up. Come back down. And now instead of just going up in a pattern or down in a pattern, we can come up with what I call walks. So we can have some different ways of navigating the steps. So let's say I want to try, I start on C and I go 2 steps up and then 1 step down and kind of repeat that pattern. Well, that'll look like this. And you can see it's kind of like thirds ascending like this. So we could try something else where we go up 1 step and then up 2 steps and then have that pattern go up, for example. And we could try, what was the other example I gave? 1 step down, 3 steps down, and then 1 step. So that sounds like this. Okay. So they start to get interesting. And what I would like you to do as a quick adventure is to find different patterns, different walking patterns, so you can come up with an ascending or descending or moving around, something where there's some kind of order to it, and you try with these inner sixths and inner tenths. So after we've done that, we can add some rhythm, and that's where we get into gospel music. So are there any questions before I move on? Okay, we're good. Nice. There's many gospel rhythms. Today we're going to play a very classic one. And actually, we have a foundation of it from before because we're bringing back the triplet. And I'm going to send you a live album by Aretha Franklin. It was recorded at New Temple Missionary Baptist Church in Los Angeles in 1972. Um, it's a tremendous album because it was also filmed, so you can see the atmosphere and the choir and Aretha and the Reverend and the band all creating this energy. And many songs on this album have this kind of signature triplet 12/8 groove. For example, the title track, Mary, Don't You Weep. There's also other ones like Amazing Grace on it and Precious Memories. They all have this groove. So definitely listen to them. You'll immediately get the vibe, and it'll make it easier to try the steps we're about to go through because you'll have the sound in your ear. So to create this ourselves, we're gonna bring the triplet that we started to explore with the boogie woogie. So first it's gonna sound like this. For example, and I'll show that on the piano when we get into it. So, as far as the sound, you can visualize the 1 and 3 of the triplet with this handy chart. That's Aretha. And I'll send you these links too in the class notes and links to YouTube. So here's our triplet. We're still in like a large group of 4 because it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. So we're playing on the 1 and the 3. Now, where it gets interesting is we're gonna go into each triplet where there's another triplet inside the triplet. So this looks crazy, but it's kind of like if you want to see it visually, but I think you'll hear it more easily than you'll see it. At least for me, I think like hearing it is clearer than this. But inside each triplet, we're playing it's like 1, 2, 3. So it's really like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And the way that we add the next 2 beats I'm going to propose is what we do is anticipate either one of the 2 beats that we're playing on the 1 or 3 with like a mini triplet right before. So it sounds like this. I'll start without doing it and then I'll add it. Let me switch to the other camera. Oops. So this is still with just 1 and 3. And then I'll add an anticipation. So that's an anticipation on the 1. There's also the anticipation on the 3. And that's playing both anticipations, but I could do only on the three, so it doesn't get too busy. Because we usually wouldn't play all of these extra hits on every time we go through the figure. So maybe it's like sometimes you'll anticipate on the one, sometimes on the three, and you'll start to feel it. So it's like that's on the one. So um, as you add these mini triplets in there, you'll start to see how the the awareness of the triplet goes inside the other triplet. So then it's something that you can get to by a few different ways. You can try it by counting, and you can try it by listening to music, for example, the songs that I'll send you, and kind of imitating where those hits are, because they become super prominent when you hear it with a band, and you can feel it. Because from that too, you can try clapping it and feeling it that way, because that's such a it's such a part of the culture of the music to feel it with your body. And like even in the congregation, the band and the like, when you see it live, there's so much clapping in the actual performance. It's like part of what the music is too. So everything goes together. What we'll do is add another idea. So we're going to get used to these modes, the 7 modes of C major or any major chord, and then also add approach chords. So, or you can think of them as in between chords. Here's what it looks like if we lay out the the ones in C. The most common ones are between the 2 and the 3, between the 4 and the 5, or you can say like the fourth and the 4 chord and the 5 chord, and the 5 chord and the 6 chord. We'll usually have approach chords that come from the next chord above or below, and sometimes from a fourth below, but we'll get into that. Actually, next time we'll get into that. So for now, we'll see how they are actually setting up for the next chord, and often sandwiched between the 2 chords that we're talking about. So if we're here, so this is the 3 chord and this is the 2 chord, and in between the 2 and the 3 we have another chord. So it's this. So in both hands we have a note between. So in the left hand, in between the D and the E, we have this E flat or D sharp, and then the right hand between F and G, we have F sharp or G flat. So this is the in-between chord of the 2 and the 3. You can go either direction. You can approach from when you're heading to the 3 chord from the 2 chord, or to the 2 chord from the 3 chord. So, So that's the chord between the 2 and the 3. We also have one between the 4 and the 5. So what that looks like is here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So between the 4 and the 5, in the left hand we have the F sharp. Now in the right hand, we don't change, it's a little trickier with this one and the next one because there is a note between the A and the B. But it kind of really takes us into a different sound. So I recommend that we actually keep the same note in our 10th we'll keep the same note in this 10th from the 4 when we play the sharp 4. So it'll be like, and we'll actually do the same for the next approach note. So sharp 4, same 10th above, and then the same note here as we go between the 5th and the 6th. So this will work going down too. And with the C added back. Okay, I don't know if that was clear. I feel like I'm getting some nodding, but are there any questions? Cool, okay. So, some smiles. I want to ask you to try all this and a to find a progression here that is different from the previous adventure because this one will put into the groove. So um, so we'll play the chords with the 12/8 groove, and you can start the walk that you found in Adventure 15 also for this one, or come up with a new one, and then experiment with adding the approach chords. And then now we have there's so I started doing this in the when we tried out the approach chords at first, like I left out the top C, and I recommend that you also try doing that at some point. Basically, the top C, I mean, at first we did 2 Cs. It was like this, and then we were keeping both of these Cs as we moved the 6th. And the whole point of doing this is to get used to the movement and to be able to play many roles at the same time, because really now we're doing a bass just hear a harmony, and keeping this melody note up here, even though maybe it's questionable whether our ear registers it as a melody, but in terms of playing it with our hands, we're doing all three rolls. And and then we took away one of the C's, but we kept the other one. And then we can take away that anchor also. Um, so the idea is that as your ear gets more familiar with the sound and the different modes, even when I just only play a tenth, um, or when you do, this is a better phrase that way, when you only play the tenth, you can still hear the home bass and how it connects to the C. So if I'm only doing this, then you can still hear how it connects to the C and find your way back. Because next lesson is going to be all about finding our way back and different ways to find our way back and how songs do it and what makes it sound great. Kind of we leave home and then create uncertainty and surprise, and then we find our way back home. Um, so once you're able to, once you feel like you have the sound of the different modes and navigating it with the anchors of the C, we take away the C and just move between these as tenths. And we can add approach chords. So I recommend you try the different approaches. Once we get only to the tenths, um, you can really start just building pure melody with the harmony, and then I recommend putting back in, or or you can do this throughout, is just like staying connected to the triplet rhythm, because um, by keeping it connected to the rhythm, you'll also, I mean, it works on rhythm, which is great, but then it also brings in different things that you'll hear, because that sound with the triplet groove is connected to a language that we've all been exposed to in differing contexts, but then it's there kind of in our consciousness. So this is what it sounds like in a groove. So that's the idea. We already have a palette for an infinite number of songs to be written, but I think that it's really nice to get used to, or to explore the landscape of the major modes, because there's so much possibility there, and and somehow I really feel, I really conceptualize it as a landscape because the sound of the of moving around in the major mode, it's very um, it's like fields, it's like pastoral, it's like folk. So so I also imagine like an actual landscape that's stretching out. So are there any questions up until this point? I'm seeing a an expression. I'm not sure if that means something.
I think it's all questions might come when I start practicing. So as of now, it's
Nice. That sounds like a good plan. Um, yeah, and it's been really cool to see everyone's submissions. It's really like a lot of the things that come up are approaches that I wouldn't have thought of. So it's going to be nice to take some of those ideas and expand from where like the things that you've given, because it also, I really want to make the class with everyone, so it's kind of like creating other paths that we can go down and explore. And the other thing that I'm going to do is basically tons of hooks, because these live sessions are really like long form, deeper dives into the topics and connecting them back to basics, like, oh, here's a gospel progression, but here's how it connects to the to C major, which maybe a lot of people are familiar with. So then especially for people who are already used to some of that, some of the basic stuff, then I can have like short videos saying, here's the concept that I'm presenting, and if you want to know more, you can, you know, here's timestamps for the longer video. So I think where it's going is I'll have tons of shorter ideas, and then I'll be able to send those out too. Um, Basically, it's a it's a it's kind of evolving to where I'm seeing what could be helpful and filling in. So um, it's an ongoing discovery for me to also, for sure. Um, so one thing that I played that I want to introduce already, it foreshadows where we're going next, is the concept of the the five. So our five chord, which in C it's G, and when we were in B flat major, it was F sharp. This is a really special mode of a C. Actually, it's a special mode in no matter what no matter what context you're playing in, because the five chord, um, it very strongly telegraphs that we might be going back to the home base. And we'll get into why next time. But for now, I just want to introduce this one particular voicing, because in C, what it looks like is that, let's say we start at the one. Oh, say we start on the one. Now, once we're here, if we play it as a tenth, you can see that the 10th in my right hand, if I keep going, I'll end up back at the C. So there's kind of this gravitational pull. That's one reason. The other reason that there's kind of a pull to C is that we'll have, when we were playing the sixths, it looked like this. So this is a situation where also with the right hand I'm almost back at C. And these two notes, this is really the G. I'm just not playing the G, but if I add it, we can hear that it's really like wanting, or there's the potential to have a resolution. And we haven't even added the ultimate telegraph signal of resolution incoming, which is this F. And so that movement, the F and the B, which is the 4 and the 7, to the 3 and the 1, is something that's going to come up a lot. And even in songs that we've done already, like Peace Peace and the Boogie Woogie riff that we were doing, we were already doing this movement of the 4 to the 3. This is the 4 to the 3. It's going to be a really powerful thing that you can add to whenever you want to resolve. And so it's going to come up a lot, but for now, what we can do is before we go to the 1, we'll play a suspended 4, which looks like this. And that is the 5 chord in the bass, and the 4, and the 1. So that's, instead of playing 5 and a 4 and the 7, which is kind of an even stronger signal for resolution incoming, we'll play the suspended 4, and we'll get into why it's called that too also soon. But the reason is we've been anchoring to C all this time. So if I play instead of keeping with the 10th, I can add the suspended chord. So at any point during your progressions, whether you're doing a different walk with a pattern, at any time you can go to the suspended 5. Even if you're in one of the approach chords. So that's another way of setting up what is happening next. And I would, at this point, it's not like the full story, but I just want to introduce that particular voicing being able to set us up for going to the home. try to drop it in at different places, or maybe you'll start to hear it and you can add it to the progression or at the end of the progression to end the song, um, or to end the song to begin another journey or another cycle or something. So yeah, that's the tools that you'll have for today. How are we feeling?
I feel like I need a piano to play it. So
Yes, good good thinking. I think that's an accurate feeling. Yeah, yeah. Cool.
and I'm
I
looking
don't.
forward to hearing Aretha tell them.
Oh, definitely. Um, it's such a great vibe. I was kind of like I had listened to the album before, and I never realized there was a documentary made of it. And so to like a really well shot documentary from all the different angles of the congregation and the band and Aretha herself and like the Reverend. It's really crazy. So it's you can feel it so much, and everyone's so alive in being there. It's great. Um, I'm wondering whether you feel, Elitza, that it's that you that you have kind of like the context to see what I was doing based on like what we went through before and things. Like, or did it seem like it was coming out from nowhere? And
I do. For me personally, I think that it does. It, I need time to build it up because I think not having the opportunity to practice, it feels like my pile is getting bigger, and it's hard for me to make those connections because I haven't practiced the previous steps enough. So it can, yeah, I feel like I have a lot to catch up.
cool. Yeah, I understand that. And I don't want, I mean, I'm hoping that things don't become too overwhelming for anyone. I think that one thing that I'm realizing with the class is it's it's we have 10 classes, it's 5 weeks, so I've packed a lot into it. And I mean, 2 sessions a week, like there's a lot of information in each one. And so I think there's a lot of students who are feeling like, oh, there's so much to catch up on because it's really structured more like an intensive than like this is the normal pace of a course. Um, and so because of that, I think that it's it's a good thing for me to see and also be able to um, kind of just communicate the understanding that that's what's going on, I and that I want to emphasize that it's not that we don't need to all be in the same place or like feel caught up because as people try out the sessions and try out doing stuff, it can extend way past the end of the course. And as this, especially for kind of this first experimental group, like I want to be here for you if you want to turn in stuff and we can still talk about it. And as I spend the time after the course has ended to kind of make shorter videos and like more summarized bits for people who
Mhm.
just they might not be like, oh, I need to listen to the whole hour because I already know C major and B major. Then as I make those, I'll send them out to everyone too. And so there will be different ways into the material, and it can be like an ongoing communication both ways instead of feeling like, oh, I'm not caught up, so I'm gonna miss out on things. So of course, like if you can watch along, as things are happening, that's great. But also like there's some flexibility for sure, and definitely don't feel stressed or anything if it's not at your pace.
Okay, thank you. It's still, I think, participating live, it gets me into a habit of hearing more music, seeing how it's so. I think for me, it's a great practice considering it's just the beginning. So it gets me into thinking about the piano and yeah, so
Nice.
it's a good practice for me, even though sometimes I'm not able to actually. Oh, thank you.
Thank you too. Yeah, it's really nice to I think I think for me it's really cool to have you listening and there. It reminds me to keep things grounded, especially like we have Mason who's just starting out and like who's a kid and he hasn't had like years of experience even like listening to different kinds of musics and so and he's not here every time but then because you're also starting out then it can be grounded to the experience of being exposed to the concepts to in kind of in their very beginning steps so that's really nice um and so it's good to keep anchored to that and also anchored to the more experienced students and what they might need so yeah there's a lot to 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 make sure that is covered and I welcome the challenge. It's funny because talking about that it's kind of like the anchoring of this of the top and the bottom C on the keyboard for today's thing but that's kind of what we're doing. Yeah,
Exactly.
cool. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I'll see everyone next time. As always, send me your adventures, and if you have questions, also that's very important. Send those to me whenever you like.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
weekend.
You too. Take care. See you.
Bye.